This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is President and CEO of Cordoba Minerals, Mr. Mario Stifano. Mario, how are you this afternoon?
Very good, Gerardo. Thank you for having me on again. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming back on. You had some news today that I think is important to contextualize the district scale potential of San Matias, right? You have the Alacran deposit, which is a standalone deposit, a great starter deposit. But I've always said that the land potential is district scale, and it's exciting to me. The rocks are exciting. The scale of it is exciting. What hasn't been exciting, and that wouldn't be fair to my readers and listeners and subscribers, frankly, is if we didn't address the deal with HPX, the recent financing. You just closed on that. Last time you and I spoke, I voiced my displeasure with the dilution. And frankly, again, with this closing, I've been pretty open and frank, I think, with you privately and publicly, with my readers and my listeners. I have to address the elephant in the room. Can you explain the reasoning behind the 1.3 million private placement with HPX, where they now own, I believe it's approximately 72%? Is that correct, of Cordoba?
That is correct. Yeah, and to your readers' benefit, you have clearly voiced your displeasure to the financing structures that we've undertaken. But the $1.3 million U.S. financing that we just did with High Power Exploration, from our perspective, we're an exploration company, and we need to continue exploring. And we were incurring some debt to continue our program at San Matias, which we think is an extremely prospective district. And I'll get into a little bit more detail on why we continue to think that. But as an exploration company, we felt continuing to take on more and more debt would have been detrimental to the interest of all shareholders. Exploration companies don't generate revenue, and the board felt uncomfortable having their debt levels start to approach $3, $4, $5 million. And anything can happen, particularly in the bear market. And the worst thing you want is a scenario where the company, even though HPX is our largest shareholder, where our largest shareholder is a big debt holder, and a repayment of that debt becomes a problem in the future, which would then really hurt the minority shareholders. So the board and management felt, the right way to have a capital structure and exploration company is equity-based. And because in the market we're currently in, we did approach various institutions, but institutional financing, whether you're a big company, small company, in development and production, is just more or less limited in this kind of market. HPX was the only shareholder willing to step up to the plate, which I think speaks volumes for what Freeland and the HPX group see as potential here in Colombia. They were the ones that provided us with the financing, and the board felt it was best to clean up the balance sheet and get some additional equity into the company so that we can continue to do what we do best, which is explore in Colombia and then maybe in the future elsewhere.
Let's talk frankly, Mario. It's a tough junior resource market right now. And let me tell you the two big issues that I had with the financing. The first was the price. I felt it was at a market bottom. It's at 10.5 cents per share. And my second, frankly, was converting the existing debt of 1.75 million US into common shares, and then also a separate debt to HPX of 425,000 US into an additional 5 million shares, which totals, about 27 million shares. And to be perfectly frank, those were the two issues that were really thorns on my side, and frankly continued to be. I love the project. I think the exploration upside is definitely there. I think we're going to get to that here in just a second. But just to be clear, those were my two biggest issues. And frankly, groups that I'm involved with and shareholders that I've spoken with, they were clear that those were their two biggest gripes as well. Yep.
Yeah, and look, we always hope that the market is going to continue to improve. When we took on some of that debt, the market just wasn't there for equity financings, and HPX recognized we needed capital, so they agreed to lend us some capital. But what we weren't able to do with success was, in the current market environment, raise equity. And the board continued to feel that building up a debt position in an exploration company in the long run, because nobody knows what the market's going to look like in the next, even though we're all bullish here, but there's no certainty to anything. Having a sizable debt position on the balance sheet, we felt would have been potentially to the detriment of all shareholders. We wanted to clean everything up and just ensure that Cordoba continues to be well financed. So as we stand today, we have some cash, about 1.7 Canadian or 1.3 US, and we have no debt on our balance sheet. HPX's position overall didn't move too materially. It moved a bit, obviously. They went from a 68% ownership to about 72% ownership of the company. So it didn't materially change the overall profile of our shareholder base. But as you pointed out, yes, we did have to accept dilution in order to bring in that additional capital. Look, I would love to have done a financing at 30, 40, 50 or $1 because I think the company is grossly undervalued. But our view was ensuring that the company is financed so that we can continue to create shareholder value in the long run.
Let's talk about how the company's going to turn things around. You know, at one point, this was a triple-digit winner. It's frankly nearly a triple-digit loser at this point, right? Yep. So you had a news release today that for me is exciting because I know that we've talked in the past, Mario, and we've agreed that, you know, the best systems are very complex. You've gone through a team of geologists that have come in and looked at this thing from all different angles, and it sounds like you finally have a group with the prior group's help, of course, that understands the complexity of the system and knows how to follow it to find possibly the potential source of mineralizing fluids for not just Alacran, but other portions of the district. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Gerardo. You know, a good rule of thumb, you know, new discovery, sometimes it takes, you know, the fifth or seventh operator of a particular deposit to really discover the potential of the deposit. In Cordoba's case, it's probably the fifth or seventh geologist that's really been able to piece this all together. And as you point out, you know, getting all the information that all the other geos had and really taking a high level view of what's happening in our district geologically. And it is very complex. You know, Northern Colombia has never really been explored for minerals. I mean, in the 80s, Cerro Matoso, the big open pit nickel mine, was discovered. But since then, very little exploration to no exploration has been done in this northern part of Colombia. And what it looks like, what we've been doing in the past, we've been looking at the deposits slightly different. And we weren't looking at them in the right way. So I'm going to use Alacran now as the first example. With Alacran, when we would drill, when you hit to around that 250 to 600 meters below surface, the deposit would cut out. And we never really understood what happened to the rest of the deposit. You know, was it deeper? Where was it? And we sort of started to assume that maybe what we saw at Alacran is what we have. But we do know that, based on our drilling, that the north was still open and was open down dip. And that was an area that we felt was prospective for additional tonnage at Alacran. However, recently, remember that beautiful high-grade gold hit that we had, hole 36, which was a spectacular hole where we had 4,400 grams gold, the 10% copper, 25% zinc, and plus silver. The artisanal miners opened up an area around that hole, just above that hole, 90 meters above the hole, and what they exposed was a very large breccia. And that breccia made us really start to understand what Alacran is all about. And it's now clear that Alacran has come from a source. And what we need to do now is start figuring out where did that source come from. And Gene Schmidt, who's our current VP of Exploration, is an extremely experienced individual. He worked as vice president of Southern Peru Copper, which is one of the biggest copper mines in the world, which is part of the Grupo Mexico group. He's worked at Freeport, Agnico Eagle. He's worked for small mining companies, including Hecla and Diabra. So he knows, you know, how to work for a big company and a small company. And after we discovered the breccia, we went and relogged all the core. And we also saw a fault in that breccia that we really couldn't pick up in a very small core drill hole. And what we now think has happened with Alacran is there's a thrust fault. And what it did is it moved the Alacran ore body up and to the east. So what that means is the rest of Alacran is not at depth. It is moved just to the west of Alacran. And that's really important because now we have no idea, if our theory is correct, we have no idea how deep Alacran is. This could be a very deep ore body. And more importantly than that, this is a replacement system. That means the source for Alacran is there as well. And these porphyries are usually much bigger than these replacement systems. So we're pretty excited now, based on the geology that we've been seeing, what is the real potential of Alacran. We think now it could be significantly bigger than what's currently been drilled on. It's already a big size at 70 million tons. And the way Gene and our geos on the ground helped piece this together is stop looking at assays. We ended up panning for gold. The most old-fashioned way to look for gold and look for mineralization is panning for gold. And we followed the mineralization, didn't pay attention to the rocks. Step by step, we kept following the mineralization from the streams to the soils. And we found some nice rocks to the west of Alacran, which you saw in the news release. Those rocks look exactly like what the artisanal miners put through their mill, and they told us that. So they were pretty excited when the artisanal miners were helping us pan for gold, because this is their specialty. When they found those rocks, they took them, a couple of them, and we cracked them open. We saw gold there, so we know there's definitely gold in those rocks. But that looks like Alacran. So we're extremely excited now with what's on the western side of Alacran. And that's just one piece of the puzzle that we have in the San Mateos district. The other one, and I've talked many times on your show about Montiel and how complex, and we're trying to figure out Montiel and why can't we find the rest of this porphyry. Well, it looks like we were looking at this all wrong in the past when we were doing exploration at Montiel. So Montiel is an outcrop where we hit some great grades, 100 meters of 1% copper and 0.6 grams gold. And to the west of Montiel is another area that we call Montiel West. They're about 700 meters apart. And we always thought these two porphyries were related, and somehow maybe it's in between or somewhere to the north, to the south. And we drilled to try and find it, but we could never really piece where this Montiel porphyry is. Well, Gene, as I said, he's very, very old-fashioned, and if you really look back in history, all the biggest mines in the world were found without geophysics. It was done by, simple geological methods such as panning. Well, he was sitting on the hillside at Montiel looking out to the western area, and we have Montiel West there, and just to the north there's another quartz vein that we call Perita that artisanal miners are mining. And when you start looking at some of the core at Montiel, you notice there's actually a quartz vein at Montiel as well. Well, as he started thinking more and more about it, he started thinking, well, maybe Montiel is not the porphyry. It's not at the roots of a system, which could have explained why the rest of Montiel is not there. And what he figured out is Montiel is leakage. So what it was is with the thrust fault that you had that moved Alacran, with the same faulting, you had the intrusion to the north of Alacran, which we call now our way out west target. The mineralization ran through the faults, and it created the Montiel West and the Montiel East outcrops. And it's leakage. It's not the actual porphyry. So we were drilling for a porphyry where there is no porphyry. It's just leakage from a porphyry. And if you now look at this way out west target, and if you look at the news release, it's a very large silver and soul anomaly. And if you notice at Alacran, when we showed the metal zoning, and again, he was looking at metal zoning quite differently than all our other geos. He was looking at other minerals, including silver in particular. We got a 2.5 by 3 kilometer silver and soul anomaly in the way out west target, and we've been walking that area. We found gold in streams, we found gold in soils, and now we've even discovered disseminated chalcopyrite copper in the area. So it's pointing us, everything is pointing us to way out west being the source and the center of mineralization for our district, in addition to what we think is to the west of Alacran. So this is pretty exciting for us, because all of a sudden now we opened up a whole new exploration target at way out west and a whole new exploration target at Alacran. And if we're right, the size of these targets are quite large.
Well, that all sounds great, Mario. It would have been even greater at 50 cents, but that's behind us, right? What are the next?
We always want to do things at better share prices, but when you enter into a new district, it takes time, and we always knew it takes time. We always would have wished we figured this out a little bit earlier, but unfortunately, and in our case now, fortunately with Gene, looking at things a little bit differently, that different experience that he had in Latin America, and the different experience he had working at small mines, including mining quartz veins, right? So he's looking at different things. He was able to really piece together what was happening in this whole area. And, we didn't have geophysics in this way out west target. We didn't have any geophysics west of Alacran. So it was an area that never would have shown up in any of our geophysical targets. And because of that, I guess, a lot of modern geologists rely quite heavily on geophysics. And sometimes you got to put pen to paper, just like a mathematician. You could use a calculator, but sometimes you got to put, pen to paper to figure out a problem. In this case, Gene put pen to paper to help figure out what was happening in our area, including, mainly drawing, the breccias and his concept of what's happening at Alacran. And this helped us piece this all together. And thankfully we got Gene on our team, and we got a great concept now that we're pretty excited about to test out.
Well, the best geologists always like to be in the field and out in the sun, not in air-conditioned boardrooms. And so it's good to hear that Gene is out there. And frankly, the results that he's been able to get to are pretty impressive. How do we test whether or not, Gene, you and the team are correct about this hypothesis?
So, to your point with Gene being out in the field, because this is really important. You hit the nail right on the head on this one. We've had lots of geos, but most of the geos would spend, say, 3-4 days at site, then go back up to site just to review data. Even Eugenio, who was our prior VP of X, his focus was doing the infill drilling at Alacran, and that's really what he focused in on. Nobody that we ever had has spent 3 to 4 weeks at a time in the field looking at rocks, but looking at new areas and just scratching their head, trying to figure out what's going here, and just bringing all that experience that they've been able to gain to try and understand what's happening in this district. And Gene is one that loves to spend time in the field. And in fact, you almost got to pull him away and go home for a week, Gene, because he needs to rest a little bit. So we're quite lucky to have that. But to your point, now that we believe we've figured out, and these are again hypotheses in terms of what we think is happening here geologically, but we're seeing quite a bit of evidence now to support our theories here. What we're doing now is we're going to continue to do the soil sampling, because we do have some pretty large land packages to test our theories. And then from there, we're going to do mapping, and we're going to do some auger drilling, which is get ourselves below the sap rock into the saprolite and hopefully a little bit of fresh rock. Because the hard part we always had in Northern Colombia is there's a lot of cover, and there's just not a lot of outcrop that you can just walk up to and just say, oh yeah, there it is. So it's taken a lot of different techniques to try and figure out what is happening in Northern Colombia. We never figured, panning for gold would be one of the best techniques to understand what's happening in Northern Colombia, but it ended up being the technique to use to help us find the source of mineralization in this area. So we're going to do some more mapping. We're going to do a little bit of shallow drilling to get to some fresh rock, and then from there we are going to drill some holes, because we got to test this theory both at Alacran and at Montiel.
Excellent. Mario, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time. And hopefully I can have you back as soon as you start getting some of those mapping results back and as you get closer to testing the theory, right?
Yeah, for sure. And look, our focus is now, solely in the northern part of Colombia, because it's quite obvious what's happening here. But, continue to pay attention, because we put a little bit on hold what's happening in our southern part of our land package. But we actually think we have another mineralizing source in this Cano Pepo, Bethesda, Buenos Aires area that we started working on and starting to piece together there as well. But when we discovered what's happening in the north, rightly so, we put that on hold to just really focus in on this northern area, because it's a potentially easier, bigger win for us in the very near future. So I'm happy to keep you and your readers up to date on this. So continue to pay attention, because I think, if we're right, Cordoba is grossly undervalued.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Truth Machine figuring that out, Mario. Thank you again.
It's the drill holes. Exactly. Thank you.
Perfect.